prevention unit. And he has presented this particular class in the past. Everyone seems to get some pointers out of it. And I'm sure that you'll learn something new today about keeping your home safe. Ed, go for it.
Thank you. So yeah, I think this is probably the third or fourth time I've given this class through the New Knowledge Adventures like that, and it's always been fun to have an in-group class where we can kind of share back and forth, kind of learn from each other with that. And so this one's gonna be a little more different just of that. So kind of a little history on me. I've been with Boise Police for closing in on 8 years now. Prior to there, I came over. I was kind of in the private security sector, and so I went to Boise State, grew up locally, love our community, and so have an interest in obviously making it as safe as we can be for you, for me, for everyone about it, and always looking for opportunities to educate folks on different topics, such as home security, because we are all in a home. We all live somewhere for the most part, and so ways that we can teach ourselves and teach others to make that home safer, the better they are, the better we are, the better it is for everybody in general with that. So yeah, asking any questions through there. So let's go ahead and get started. So typically when I run this presentation in the live piece of it in person, I'm always asking for people's perceptions, people's views and stuff like that, because our safety has so much to do with our perception of a situation with that. And so with this first house, we talked to people and they had them respond, how safe would they feel in a setting like this? What makes them feel safe? What's the good and bad, everything that comes with being at this residence and stuff like that. And so most people will bring up the things of, it's well taken care of. You can see, the shrubs maintained, there's flowers hanging outside. It looks like a place that someone lives in and someone's taken care of quite a bit. And so most people, when we talk to them, feel fairly comfortable in that environment. The next house we go to, compared to the first one, people say, kind of the good and bad with that. It's like, there's no really sidewalk walking by, so you can't see people. There's no really, the shrubs on the left side are big and overgrown. Doesn't look like anyone's taking care of it as well. And so people typically will say they don't feel as comfortable in that one as opposed to the first one we looked at. Given in this your environment is you're used to, if this is kind of where you're what you're comfortable with, then even being in this situation might seem different, might seem uncomfortable for you like that. But so much of the safety pieces like that we talk about is based off of perception and the kind of user's perception of it. And when we talk about anything crime prevention, a lot of it has to deal with people's behaviors and affecting people's behaviors. So trying to go about ways to change how people feel about one spot to the next spot to the next spot, and how that affects their decisions, how that affects their personal safety, that affects their physical safety with that whole piece of things. So the objectives we're going to go through today, I'm going to teach a little crime prevention. This is the 101 crime prevention that I base so much of what we do here at Boise Police on. We're going to talk a little bit about crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED, as it's called for short. After that, we're going to talk about our 3 L's of home security, those 3 L's that we talk about to every resident that we go out to help them kind of maintain that safe baseline, maintain that certain level at their residence. We teach people how to assess their own residence. So how do you have a different set of eyes when you're looking at that to assess the safety of that and things that you can do on top of there. Landscaping is a big thing. I've been talking about putting together a whole course on landscaping alone. And the guy I was planning it with, we have it planned out where we could probably have half a day on just about how landscaping and things you can do with landscape with that can actually affect your home, your prevention around your home, things of that nature. Lastly, we follow up with just a little bit of vacation security, just some principles, some guidelines we encourage people to do around the house if they're thinking of leaving for a while, but at the same time, some good principles just for your day-to-day stuff, your day-to-day use from that as well. So as we get into it, I'm trying to miss a slide. Okay. Crime prevention through environmental design. This is what the official definition is of it. So it's really that proper design and effective use the built environment can lead to a reduction in the fear of crime and also the incidence of crime and to an improvement in the quality of life. So, to put it a little more simply, I guess, than that, is the way have a space, the way you design a space, like the space, put things in a space, arrange things in a space, can lead to people feeling safer from that. So there's not that fear of crime, and at the same time, when there's less fear of crime, the things you can do, there can be a reduction in the actual crime itself. There are designs that we've had out there that you do that are good, that can lead to the space being safer for everyone, and in turn people being more safe in that space. And on the inverse of that, there's things you can do in a design, in how you plan out a space, how you put together a space, where it can actually increase crime and obviously lead to people being more fearful of that. And obviously the outcome is that's the quality of life, whether you're at a home residence, whether you're out walking in a park, whether you're shopping at the store. It's all about improving that quality of life, making it safer for as many people as possible. And so there's two main goals that come out of that. And so it's first and foremost discouraging that inappropriate and aggressive behavior, which a lot of that is going to be that criminal activity. So discouraging what we don't want to have happen in that space, and promoting all the stuff we do want to happen, the appropriate, the positive, the social interactions for that. So many, when I'm explaining crime prevention through my design subset, so many of my references go back to kind of like a park setting, because we're all kind of can relate to that. So if a person goes to a park, what are they going to want to see? What are they going to have from there? If they see, say, graffiti all over there, if the equipment is broken, if it's not well maintained, there's litter everywhere, if there's obviously signs of drug use, are people going to feel comfortable using that setting? Are people going to want to take their family to that setting? In most cases, it's not going to be that case. They're going to stay away from that spot. And because all the people that we want there, we want to have there, those families, all the people using it for the right purpose, using it as the park purpose, are going to go away. And the more people that are going to be using it for that inappropriate use, for the graffiti, for the vandalisms, for the drug use, and who knows what else comes with that, are going to be more encouraged to use that space. And so it's all about taking that setting as user friendly as possible for the people we want to be using that space. And ultimately, it really comes about changing people's behavior or affecting people's behavior with that, which I just find, I don't know if that in cases on change their behaviors. And there's just simple little things that we can do in all those places, whether you're out in public or whether you're at your home, where you can do things that will affect people's behavior with that. So I can do a whole big long discussion or about can he really change a person. And this is a little video that I borrowed from Volkswagen. They put a few of these out. I've had 2 or 3 that I play in different classes, but this is the one I kind of like the most. This is the first one I saw about how can you really change someone's behavior just by changing a space. other video I like to use from them, it's actually in a park setting, and they actually make it so they set up so when you put something in the garbage can, it sounds like it's kind of like the coyote going off the cliff in the Looney Tunes cartoons, where it makes that meow sound. And so you see a person walk in, put a piece of trash there, hear the sound, kind of look, and then after some of the videos they did, they would actually have people, walking around the park looking for garbage to go throw away, just so they can make that sound again like that. Once again, doing something simple to change people's behavior of the space. In this case, you got more people to go up and down the stairs, walk up a little bit, making kind of a fun thing to do. In the other one, you got people to pick up trash around a park setting and kept the environment cleaner by, changing a little thing you do with the environment with that. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to install pianos on their driveway or anything like that to make it safer, but just thinking of those little things that we can do to change people's behaviors, and we do them every single day, and people they put them in designs every single day for houses, for businesses, and stuff like that, to change people's behaviors and how they act, how they interact with a space. And so the 4 principles we're going to talk about with are natural surveillance, control, territoriality, and maintenance. Given depending on how you learned your SEPTED from, they can evolve down into many other pieces from that. But as you'll see with a lot of these, they're kind of overlapped. You can't have great surveillance unless you have great maintenance piece like that. Your territoriality might not seem as well if you don't have great maintenance, affected by your surveillance pieces in there. And so they all overlap from there. But going out and starting with natural surveillance, it's pretty much the whole visibility factor with that. And so it's designing a space and visibility. And how I explain it a lot of times is, people that have kids, people that have grandkids, do you with them out in the backyard where you can stand over the kitchen sink, wash dishes, and see them playing around, or just running where you can't see them blind and they have no clue what they're doing? Most people are going to say, I have visibility to them. I'm going to feel safer from that in a public setting, about a park or something like that. We feel safer if we can kind of maintain that visibility around us, see what's going on, the good, the bad, everything else from there. And the more people that can see us, the safer we feel, the safer we're going to truthfully be with that. Now, breaking it down to a few examples in houses from here, about half the photos I took on here, about 50-50, are from the Boise area, the Nabocaldwell area, the Meridian area. And so maybe you've seen these before. Who knows? Maybe you've driven by them, lived them, whatever else from that. But I also use them for good and bad examples. So I hope I'm not hurting anyone's feelings by being by saying bad things about their shrubbery or their life like that when we go through this. But the first, how here, looking for visibility. How visible could someone be walking by that? How visible could someone be driving, parking in the driveway, anything else from there? How many of those windows look out on the front of the house and can see the entire property from that? And that's, the having a lot of windows in the front of the house, it's based how they're placed, how their door is placed. And so you can see better. So for example, if someone was parked in the driveway, how well could you see that from inside the house? This one, compared to a lot of houses I've seen, a lot of lands I've seen, you can actually see very well, save for your mail and stuff like that. If you're worried about mail theft, how worried are you going to be with your mailbox where it is? And at the same time, because someone can see that so well, that criminal perception, is that going to be the place I'm going to risk if I'm going to want to steal mail from that mail target over the one down the street that can't see as well, that has poor lighting, the whole piece like that. And so typically, because the way it's kind of designed, because the way it's well maintained, someone from inside the house can be able to see a person walking down the street, a solicitor coming up to the door from much further away than quite a few other designs I'm going to show you. So typically the visibility is much better in this. And so a person has that chance to see what's going around and have that much safer environment with, most people look at it and say, very well maintained, which it is. They did a good job having the shrubs nice and low so you have the opportunity to see outside the windows, things of that. The tree is trimmed up high so you can kind of see underneath. You can see a car driving by, see a person walking by. Just one of the things with the design and one of the workplace until they're actually almost on walking up the last little part of the sidewalk there to get to the front of the house. Same thing with the vehicle over here. How many windows are going to be able to see on at that vehicle? Even if it's part further to the left of the screen, we're not going to be able to see it from the front door. There's no windows over here on the left that look over upon that. We may or may not be able to see it from our front windows here, maybe see it from over here. And so the visibility just not as good with that. So at the same time, looking at that criminal perception of that might be a little more inviting of a place to try to target for that vehicle burglary, for that vehicle theft on that driveway, because you can't see as well. It's the visibility is not as great with that. This was a very nice new home a couple years ago when I added it to the presentation. And the things that would concern me with this design, given they made this little brick patio out here, they put up the wall so you can have that privacy back there. You can go out and enjoy your coffee, your beverage, read your book, whatever out front, which I'm all for that piece like that, in designing spaces that encourage people to get outside, get out front. But at the same time, how much of a hiding spot could that be? And things they could have done to make it a little more open to allow visibility in there. First and foremost, you have your door set off way back in here, and so it's less visible to people walking up and down the street. It's less visible to your neighbors, and people aren't going to be as well seen if they go up there and they knock on the door, whichever else from that. But as a hiding place too, how easy it would be for a person with ill intent to one over here and hide behind this whole spot, where they could have done something simple, still made that outdoor space, and opened this up. Maybe instead of a big brick wall or rock wall, they had some slats in there. They use some wrought iron or something like that people can see through, opening up that visibility into the space. Another one in my old neighborhood. How many people can see where the door is at? Just kind of take a look at your screen, and we all kind of know where the door is at, but can we really see back there that well? And so once again, say that person that has that criminal intent, if they want to go up there, how easily are they going to be seen from a person walking by, from a person driving by, from a neighbor's house, if the entire front door for the most part is blocked, is obstructed from there. In some other places of the yard and stuff like that, if you do have your lights on to help improve visibility, how much is some of the shrubbery, like that big guy right there, going to block that and obstruct that and make it less visible for everyone to see. And this is kind of two different fences designs I had in here. Once again, very nice, very new house. And you have the fence over here on your right-hand side, which you're just going to see in a lot of spaces where you have that simple wood fence going around your backyard, your perimeter from there, that people can't see in, which, I'm fine with that. Protect that space. There's some things you can do with the locks and stuff on there to maximize that. But just the one here on the left that has the wrought iron as opposed to the wood, how much more visibility is there? Say you have a bad person that jumps that fence to access the back of the house to the back doors and things like that. The second he's over this fence on the right, he's gone. He's out of view from, person walking by, person driving by, from your neighbors on the other side of the street. And so he's blind to him from there. But say he jumps this fence right here, there's still a lot of visibility all the way through there, where another person has an opportunity to see what that person could or could not be doing back there, isn't doing back there, good, bad, and indifferent from there. And so just a simple choice of fence, which in the end, they do the same thing. They keep access control out of it. But the visibility from one to the other one is much greater. Which, since we talk fences, leads us into access management. And so that's simply the guiding of people coming and going to a space. And so there's simple things that we do every day, from our landscaping to putting sidewalks in to putting lighting in, that is going to encourage people to stay on certain paths than others from there. And the more we control where they're going, the better we have a chance to control our safety, our security with there. There's one big thing that we all do in our house to control access, and that's doors. But even going in depth into that, what kind of door do we have? What kind of locks do we have? What's the lighting situation like around that door? That's going to make it a little bit different for access in and out of that spot. I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about doors and door security later, so I won't get that into that too deep right here. But once again, going back to the two fences I showed before, they both have the same purpose. They're both are going to do the same thing of keeps people out of your backyard, and that's the point of that. But even controlling people from there is someone necessarily going to want to use either that gate on the left hand side if there's no sidewalk coming out. There's just landscaping and rock up to that, and so defining out different spaces and different uses from there with just a little simple thing to do for landscaping or whichever. This is another house in the exact same neighborhood I took that fence shot on, but think of the access control piece like that, and not allowing or controlling people where we want to go to spaces. They've done this beautifully well with their landscaping, with the paper they have put into there, even the little short little fence they have with that. And so they guide people to the space by accenting it up with the landscaping through there. So you're directing them to go up the sidewalk on the driveway. You're directing them to go on here, but just the simple fact of you're changing from your average, concrete sidewalk out here to the different texture, the different pavers, gives that little different perception of ownership to it, and it shows more ownership over here, changing people's ways they feel about that and change the behavior from there. And just the so simple access point thing you're putting right here, given I could probably step over this myself and get by there, but the perception it gives, just that small barrier it gives from being there, gives us certain sense of perception, different level of definition of the property of ownership there. That a lot of people are going to go up there, they're going to maybe stop right there. If they do go in the gate, obviously there's a different ownership level that even comes behind that, and so people are going to feel different about that, feel different how they act with that. And you're going to see a lot of the private spaces like this in so many spots. I see them oftentimes in a lot of housing complexes where you'll see people right up on the street, and they're trying to block the back door from the street, block the sidewalk, stuff like that, which I understand, and kind of understand why people would want to not have that noisy traffic driving by them on all their doors, so close to doors and stuff like that. But the argument I give is for the blocking of the visibility. Given, are you controlling access up to there? Without a doubt, from there. And so you're directing people to the place you want to go. You're keeping people out of the place you don't want to be. But depending on the definition, the design of it, if you're allowing them easy access back there with a design such as this, you are going back to the visibility point. You're blocking all visibility from that front area with that. And truthfully, what we see of, given in our area, we don't get a lot of kind of residential burglary type situations, which is great for us. But the ones we occasionally do aren't necessarily that person that's going to go middle of the night and breaking the back door or stuff like that. Most of the time, it starts with the person approaching your front door. And with this design right here, you blocked a lot of visibility up to that front door area, and so people cannot see. Obviously, the idea was to create that private space to control access a little bit, but you block so much visibility in there, kind of defeats some of the purpose of that. And this is, I guess, a perfect example of how simple things can be to kind of define that access, define those kind of areas of what's yours, what's mine from there. The fence is probably 2 feet high in some of the spots through there. That's really how many neighborhood kids could easily jump over that. But because you put up that simple little barrier in defining where a person should and should not go, controlling what's my space back here, what's your space out here on the public sidewalk, most people aren't going to go across that, and so you're directing them around to a little bit here on the left, which you can't see as much, which is where the sidewalk is, and they go up to the front of your house because that's where you want them to go, as opposed to jumping the fence, going around, everything else like that. Territoriality is the third point of SEPTED, and he tried to talk to me. I kind of described it a little bit when I was talking about the pavement situation, the gates, stuff like that, and the other house example. But a lot of it is defining that private space, that semi-private space, that public space. What's my space versus what's a space that's okay for you to be on? what is everyone else's space from there. Obviously, true territoriality really shows ownership of a space, and the more you show ownership, the more you show care and stuff for it, the different perception people are going to have of that space and what happens on that space. Another case example from here with defining the space, that little fence right there, the landscaping defines what's the public space out here on the sidewalk to what is the private space over here on the other side of just that simple tiny little fence. And the other ownership pieces from there are the chairs back here that for people to use and sit on, showing that people are going to use the space, the shrubbery, the flowers, the things of that are well taken care of, showing that people pay attention to what's going on in that space. Another picture I stole for this great example of just kind of that ownership of that front door space, where they put the shrubs out, they put the flowers out, it's clean, it's well maintained, they changed up the paving on there, where it just shows that people are watching that space, they take care of that space, and someone owns that space. And so for criminal activity, it would more easily be detected in a space that someone owns and pays attention to than in a space that people don't maintain, they don't pay attention to as much. Once again, those little fences, the sidewalks and stuff like that, guiding people to and from the space from there, controlling the access in there, plus defining out your space versus my space once it gets in here from there. And just the rest of the maintenance and all the pieces like that of the grass being kept up, the shrubs being trimmed and stuff like that, all the visibility you have out in there shows ownership of the property. And so people are going to treat that a little bit differently, act differently in that space. The last piece that kind of holds it all together is the maintenance piece, and that's just simply the repair, the replacement, the upkeep. It's really keeping order of that space. And so just once again, going back to that park example, if there's litter everywhere, if there's graffiti that hasn't been cleaned up, that affects people's perception of safety and how they're going to treat that space in of itself. And so this is just keeping up all those good things you put in place, from the landscaping, from the lighting, from the other pieces of SEPTED, to carry it out and make sure it's continued to be used for its proper spot. And so this house here with the very well trimmed lawn, the trimmed landscaping, the very well kept from there, I kind of attribute to that house as a kid, where the second the ball went in that yard, I was worried because I know the guy's paying attention. He's going to run out and yell at me if I run across and have to grab my ball out of his flower bed or out of his front yard or whichever else from that. It just kind of shows that ownership level from that. And so once again, taking that and applying it to that possible criminal activity, this is a spot that I'm going to think second about committing an act there, stealing the paper from there, vandalizing their car in the driveway, burglarizing a car in the driveway, because this shows obvious ownership. Someone is obviously paying attention to this space versus maybe another one down the street that doesn't show the same level of ownership with that. And this is an abandoned house, and so it's probably the far extreme example I use with there. But once again, what kind of activity would be attracted to this spot because of the lack of upkeep on it? Given it's once cleaned up, once put there, it's a beautiful, cool old kind of farmhouse type of structure, but because people get the perception that no one's paying attention to it, is that going to be the house that the kids ride their bikes by after school and throw rocks at the windows because they don't think anyone pays attention to it? Does that be the one where the high schoolers go to smoke behind the house because they don't think anyone's paying attention to that area? That sort of perception that comes with it. And there's some good and bad that has this house. This is a house out in, what was it, East Boise. I took a few pictures of when I was driving around out in Coleman Village area. And there's some good and the bad that comes with it. The kind of the bad piece like that is just kind of that whole maintenance piece. It doesn't seem to be upkept. And so if you look back here, the fence is actually knocked down and laying on there. You see the grass has been mowed for a while, watered for a while. The weeds kind of taken over from there on both sides. So typically no one would think someone's paying attention to there. The one piece I give credit to for this spot is that lovely basketball hoop right there, which the one point I left off of here that I usually kind of go into when I talk kind of more of a business setting is it kind of that encouraging people to get out and be visible in a space, encouraging people to use a space for whatever purpose you want it to, from that kind of that activity support piece of it. how many of the neighbor kids are going to come home after school, basketball available to all of them on the street? They're going to start shooting hoops right there. So with that, how many extra sets of eyes do you have watching this house, watching all the houses in actually this cul-de-sac setting, which it is? And so by supporting activities with there, you're actually encouraging, a safer environment because there's more kids out there, there's more eyes out there watching, and have an effect on people's safety and reporting with that. Which I guess I did keep that slide in here, but yeah, just the placement of activities to support natural surveillance, to support your access control management, to support the territoriality piece of it. So once again, there's that basketball hoop right there that encourages the people to come and use it. The more people you have to use in the space for what you wanted to use it for, what you wanted to use it for, the more safe that space is going to be for all those people using it if they're able to use it for that purpose. Picture off the internet took, but just that little table example over here to the right, which encourages the homeowners to go out there and sit and have their morning coffee, maybe watch the kids walk by on their way to school, or on the weekends go and sit there and kind of watch the neighbors mow their lawn, people driving by and stuff like that. It encourages that visibility, encourages that activity out there. And so because you encourage that activity, that proactivity that you want, more people are paying attention to it and more people are safe because of that. You're safer because of that. Another great example, they just put a simple bench out here to watch and sit on there and watch what's going on, and they're able to support the activity, support that visibility of the house because of it. And with all we learned in the class, we usually go through and take a second look at both these houses, kind of with that same sort of piece that we went through with all pieces like that. And so first and foremost, we look at this, obviously maintenance. Maintenance seems to be very well kept with that. You have your shrubs trimmed, you have your lawn mowed, driveways nice and clean, everything's upkept with that. And so that's usually good for a situation like this. Your territoriality pieces like that, once again, the maintenance is taken care of. You're actually putting some flowers and stuff out there that shows people are paying attention, people care. At the same time, people have to go out and water these, which it looks like they are watering them. And so you have those homeowners encouraged to be out front and seeing what's going on in the front of their home, seeing what's going on in the rest of the neighborhood. Visibility, it's okay. It could be better with that, given the door is kind of set back there, but you have your light on when you need it. You can kind of see out from the driveways and stuff for the most part. Most people walking by are going to be able to be seen walking up to the front door, so that visibility piece is there as well. But with this spot, we're kind of looking at that exact same set of eyes. Is there a good visibility piece that goes to it? Yeah. If you're walking the street down through here, if it had a sidewalk, could it have a little more activity support where you're encouraging people to walk out? Yeah. People still come out to these shrubs over here and kind of worry about, once again, that visibility spot. And are you worried about people having unnecessary hiding spaces over in through here because the shrubs aren't trimmed up as well as they could? And that's obviously a legitimate concern with that. People are going to be seen when they approach this house. People are going to be seen when they approach through the kind of driveway area over through there. And so people still get that different perception from the spot, even though, looking at it, it has a lot of the pieces, the visibility pieces that we have. That is the access control there a little bit. You have your sidewalk leading people up to where you want them to go from. Whoops. Is there the next that ownership piece like that? Maybe not as much as the other spot from there. The maintenance piece, maybe not as much as the other spot as well. We kind of see grass is trimmed up, but maybe not watered as best. Once again, the shrubs are a little large over to the side from there with that. And so taking all that, we apply it to kind of our actual physical security pieces like that we look at in a home setting. And that's when we talk about our 3 L's. So a lot of law enforcement agencies throughout the country, police agencies throughout the country, will talk about those 3 L's when they're doing anything that talks about home security specifically. And so the first area we're looking at, the first L is locks. So obviously locks are going to be the access control piece. And so they're going to control access into and out of your residence, into and out of your garage, into and out of your shed, even your vehicle, things of that nature. Locks are going to be able to control that access, which is a very good thing. If you look at reports from the crimes we see in the area, one big thing that you will see, kind of that message that rings true in most of the cases like that, one gap maybe we're missing on a little bit, and towards our home security is most people have locks. Given you buy a house, you rent an apartment, you do whatever like that, they're going to come with a certain level of locks on there per design, per code, and everything like that. Kind of the key from here is to get people to actually use them. If I could get people to consistently close their garages and lock their cars, I could probably prevent so much opportunity crime that we see from here, because locks will prevent that crime of opportunity. It will put up that first barrier when the person comes to committing a crime in so many other settings with that we see here in Boise. Landscaping is the next piece we talk about for the second L. And you can do so many great things with landscaping to promote ownership, control access to where you want people to go, obviously promote the visibility at your residence, around your residence, or in some cases it can do the exact opposite of that and kind of defeat the purpose from there. But it's really that natural surveillance piece of there. If we design our landscape right, we can see better around our properties. If we have our landscaping done right and upkept, that shows that ownership of that home, of that residence. And the maintenance piece of there, as long as we're upkeeping it, we can maintain that surveillance piece like that. We can maintain that ownership piece of that. We can show that people care about that space. And there's good ways and bad ways to do it. You're going to get those here in a second. Lights, another big piece of home security. And so if I can't talk a person into anything else around their house for security, lights is the place I always focus on to talk to them about, because lights are probably the cheapest and most easy and least expensive thing you can do to promote security around on your house. Obviously, they promote visibility. If your car is parked in the driveway at night and you have your lights on, obviously people are going to see that. Plus, you have that opportunity to see more things going on because you can see it from inside your house. It obviously can promote the ownership piece like that and show that people are paying attention to that. Once again, if you're driving down a neighborhood street at night and you see the house that has lights on the outside, you can see some lights going on the inside. A person can estimate, people are inside that house, people are paying attention to that spot. And so do I necessarily choose that one for my criminal activity, or is it the street across the street that has no outdoor lights on? It's pitch black on the inside, which gives that perception that no one's home, no one's paying attention. So leaving that as a target for that potential opportunistic type of crime. The technology piece, and after the few years I've had to add this and talk about it more and more, given I just leave it on one slide, but this is a lot of the stuff that we see now, that we encounter when we're talking to people about their residence itself and things that they can do or questions we get asked about it. For many still now, the biggest question we always get is about alarm systems and what people can and cannot do for their house, what should or should not they do for their house. And it's really going to depend on so many factors of then your lifestyle to what alarm system's really going to work the best for you when it comes down to it. Some of the big points that we talked about and discussed and help people kind of think about is installed versus self-installed. And so you can pay a company to come out and put in an alarm system for you. And sometimes by signing their service contract, they'll do that for free. They'll install the system, but then you have the service contract for a year, 2 years that you end up paying with that, versus a self-install. And we probably get more people asking about the self-install piece now because there's just so much technology available that is very easy to use. And so you could go down to Walmart, you could go to Best Buy, you could go on Amazon and buy your alarm system for your house. The most questions we probably get about are like kind of the Simply Safe alarm systems, where you buy it as kind of like an a la carte piece like that, where they have a base system and then you can add on other pieces of that on top of there, and you pay the one price for it. You're probably going to pay more than versus an installed piece, because but you'll be doing it yourself. You're just paying for the technology to put up from there. And truthfully, if you can hook up to your Wi-Fi with something, if you can operate a screwdriver for the most part, you'll probably know how to be able to self-install the alarm systems from there. The city code, at least for Boise, is the exact same on the installed versus the self-installed piece like that when it comes to nuisance alarms, when it comes to everything else. And so there's no really big difference for the rest of the cities around here, but most of them will not have any sort of licensing or anything like that. You will have to do any sort of permitting. You will have to do to have an alarm system on your house. And so whether someone else installs it for you or the same, it's going to be the exact same piece, but we're seeing a lot more just people get talked about. We get, and that's a lot of times will go between the self-install versus the technician installed from that. The systems, a lot of the systems you buy online, like the Simply Safe, like the other rings, things like that, the contract piece is a lot on a month-to-month basis. And so if you're going to be gone for the summer and you're just going to need and really want to focus on the alarm system for when you're going to be away, traveling, whichever like that, you only have to pay for those months if you're on set up on a month-to-month plan with some of on the monitoring contract. And some of the other ones that have you sign that agreement, they're going to pay attention to your house 2 years, for example, if that's your service contract, and you're going to be paying them month by month by month for all that. Given they do great monitoring, but um, you're signed into that contract. That's really the difference between the two. As long as your alarm goes off for us to respond to, as long as that alarm goes off for the to scare that burglar away from your house, I don't think it matters how much you're paying in the end. It's just what level you're comfortable with from there. Uh, the month-to-month ones are typically going to be cheaper. A lot of those systems I've seen are maybe $15, $20, $25 a month, which is extremely cheap compared to a lot of the ones I've dealt with, seen with before with some of the monitoring situations on kind of when you're signed into a contract with there. One thing we've learned, a lot of homeowners learned around here, is kind of looking at that backup piece like that. And so when you want your alarm system to be used when you need it, you want it to go off when you need it. And so if your Wi-Fi is down, is it still going to go off? Is there a backup piece from there where it's still going to go off and the alarm company is still going to know about it and they're going to dispatch police to that situation or contact you if you're away? If the power is off, is the alarm system still going to go off? A lot of the hardwired older systems, that's not the case. And we had people a few years ago taking advantage of this situation locally. They were going through and cutting the phone lines, cutting the power into the house ahead of time, and then going in because they knew the people were away and spending hours on end, victimizing that house for all sorts of goodies in there. If people spend a few hours inside your house, they can probably find all your hiding spots for all your goodies, if you do have hiding spots for all your expensive and valuables from there. So considering, does it have a battery backup where it's still going to go off if the power is up? Does it have that cell backup, that other backup where it doesn't need a dedicated phone line from your house to go off and to alert the alarm company if it goes on from there? We see a lot of systems now that are based off your Wi-Fi, and so you're going to have a Wi-Fi setup for your house. And so if you're in an older house that you don't pay for Wi-Fi, you don't pay for the computer service, you might not be able to use that in the system unless you buy the Wi-Fi. You have that Wi-Fi you can hook it up to from there. In the end, alarm system for me, what I want it to be is a huge deterrent. And so most people have the signs out in front, which I'm great for. I want to have that alarm sign that's saying that displays that's going house. When that alarm is set, and hopefully it's an easy one for you to set, they have ones that you can have a key fob where you click a button, it sets your alarms for that. And I want that alarm to be nice and loud and alerting the person that's breaking in when my alarm goes off, to hopefully get them quickly out of my property, out of my home from there, and letting everyone else know that something happened at my spot. Um, the sensors and stuff you have to consider with alarm systems, most spots will have set up for some sort of contact sensor, and those will be put on, say, a door. So when a door opens, the sensor will be breached and it will sound the alarm. You'll put those typically on your front door, your back door, different sets of doors and stuff like that. Depending on your perimeter, you could have one really put on every single access point into your house, from that door to the garage, door to the back door, and the door that's from your front door, anything else that goes in out there. Other sensors that they have inside the house that you'll see commonly are kind of motion sensors, or areas that you have those valuables to protect in. So if there's a hallway that someone has to down to, that would be a common, because that person that breaks into your house is going to go through there and that'll trip the alarm out from there. the valuable areas. And say if you have that room that has all your electronics equipment in it, your man cave, your whichever else from there, that would be another spot to protect all those that you have inside of there. That still have that piece that's going to go off and hopefully deter them, get them out of there quicker than normally would be from there. Uh, and truthfully, if you want to, most alarm companies will have something about it. So it's kind of a combo piece like that. So the alarm goes off, the monitoring company can now pull up your camera system and tell you what's going on, tell us what's going on inside that house type of situation from there. Which leads us into the camera system point of it. And so talking about this today in Boise, Idaho versus even 5 years ago is so much has changed just technology wise with that. And truthfully, we're probably getting better pictures from a solicitor, or someone stealing a package on a front door, or a solicitor information, whatever else from that coming to a front, than we are from a lot of businesses, because the technology has evolved and it's much more user friendly for people to have and install, whichever else like that. And so a common one we're going to see a lot is those doorbell type cameras, and you see the Ring, you'll see the other pieces from there. And so those will allow you and will alert you to anyone coming to your front door, ringing your doorbell. You can be sitting on your couch and have an alert pop up on your TV, or an alert pop on your phone that someone's at your front, kind of uh, that they'll usually allow for free, but then there's a certain contract level where you have the backup of the camera actually recorded. And for an evidentiary piece, for us trying to solve a crime, then is truly going to need to be able to do that. So if you're fine with self-monitoring yourself and just knowing every time someone goes to your front door, great. You do that by just buying the doorbell, buying the camera, stuff like that for there, and having you kind of be that sentry for your system. If you want to have that evidentiary piece for us, of that solicitor, of that person that comes to the door, that kicks in your door, that steals your package, you're going to want to pay that extra couple dollars to actually have that uh, information saved somewhere, which it's not in most cases a physical VCR or DVR or stuff like that where you pay for it. A lot of times it's the technology based, it's cloud based, and so it's being saved out here by the company for you to access whenever you need to get it. And the benefit of that is you can oftentimes download the clip, you can email the clip, you can send us a link for the clip, and law enforcement will have access to the home camera systems are kind of the same. They're very easy for you to do. We get a lot of questions. We see a lot of people installing the Nest systems, the systems that you can buy at, say, Walmart or a Best Buy or a Home Depot from there. All the new camera systems you'll see with that are 100% kind of Wi-Fi based, and so you don't need to run wires anywhere, which is a huge benefit to that. It's going to cost a little bit more than your older system that you can buy at some other spots, but the ease and convenience of that is greatly beneficial for you if you're installing it at your house. Um, they'll have battery backups for the cameras as opposed to having wires, because the other thing you have to worry about when you're putting up a camera is how you're going to power that. A lot of the systems you'll see will have a battery life that will last for 3-6 months, and you just have to remember to charge the batteries or change the batteries from there. The keys I talk to people about when they're installing a camera system on their house is not as much the general monitoring piece. We'll get videos now from a person that they sit on the very top of their house just so they can see the most out and about. And they'll get an image out there of a person and hope that we can solve the crime from that, which may or may not happen, because truthfully, if we're going to solve crimes from camera systems, a lot of we're going to need is the more details of that person, of their vehicle, whichever else from that. And so if you can get me that, so a person's face when you're recording it, that's the better. And so as opposed to having the camera up very high, which it isn't bad to have one so you can kind of see general activity, so you can kind of see people coming and going, so you can kind of see those people coming up from the street, see vehicles from there, which is great. But at some point where they're going to come into your camera system, whether it's your front door and stuff like that, you're going to want to try to get the best face shot of there as you can. And so that's why some of the doorbell cameras are great, because they're right at the front door. They're at more of an eye level, and so a person walking up is going to see that and you're going to see them and see their face because of that. But even kind of what I talked about with some of the motion sensors with cameras, looking at those high traffic areas where people are going to access a spot, whether that be a side gate where people are going to have to go through if they're going to get into your backyard, and having one of the cameras there and a lower camera there, and so you can see that access from there. We see many people put them on their driveway, which is a great thing to do because obviously a vehicle there, you're going to have a lot to protect with that. Uh, but necessarily that might not be the one that helps us solve the crime 100% of the time, but it is going to help you monitor. That is going to give us something to go by if that vehicle is broken into and that vehicle is stolen. And the smart locks, I'm still learning more so about smart locks, but people have it set up where you can open and unlock your doors just by a click of a button on your phone with that. Some of the more simple ones you'll see where, as opposed to a key you have to have to turn in there, they'll have keypads where you can punch in a code and stuff like that, which is great, where you might have kids worried about losing a key coming home from there. And so they know the code, they can hit the code to get into the house from there. Uh, the part that people always worried about, which I don't have great answers on yet, is just that whole technology piece. Hey, can someone hack into my system and open my door and stuff like that? And truthfully, it's probably possible. With there, is everyone going? Is that going to be the necessarily the criminal you're going to see here all the time? Probably not. At the same time, with that, but there would be the possibility. And with all these stuff like that, you'll hear the horror stories of people being able to access people's security systems and talking to people from there and doing this and that, the next thing. All the systems that are going to be that Wi-Fi based, are going to be that security based and stuff like that. Your authentication, your passwords and stuff like that are going to be key from there. And so your Wi-Fi password, making sure that's just not going to be the 1 2 3 4, and that's all they have to do to get onto your Wi-Fi. Having it be there, have that kind of that dual factor authentication for many of the things like that. And so it's just not on the factory password that if someone's going to sign onto your system, they need A, the password, and then B, you're going to get a text with a special code or special phrase. You're going to have to enter a special thing you're going to have to hit on your phone, which like that allows that second entry of level into your systems. And so the more kind of security protocols you have in place for all of this, truthfully, the harder is going to be for someone to get in and to misuse it from there. And ooh, we're about an hour right now, and I got a lot to cover, so I'm not going to go as much into this whole piece like that. But this is where we usually have people go through and do a whole security exercise with me. With the whole perception idea of this is teaching people how to kind of look at their house from that second point of view, look at a house from that critical eye, to kind of look at your security, to kind of be that critique person on your security from there. And so we'd actually go through there and talk about the good, but what we're really going through and looking at it is kind of looking at it from that criminal point of that criminal eye person victimize someone in here, how to break into this house, how to here. And so just kind of think about it at your own residence, stuff like that. And so the first place a person that can get in into your house is door, your front doors. And we have many of them and in most residents when it comes down to it. And so your front door and making sure you protect that. And so with your front door, the things we encourage people to have is a solid core door. And so it's not easy to break through, to push through, to get through anything else. Be insert, or it's going to be a solid wood door, and those could be a little more hard to get through if you're trying to break in through that. Making sure you have locks on your door is the first piece, and using them from there. Most homes should be set up where they have the handle lock, which if I've talked to a lot of locksmiths, and that point is worthless. And so the piece I like to emphasize as much from there is your deadbolt. Making sure you have a deadbolt on all the exterior doors, your front one especially with that, and make sure it's installed properly. So what you want to do to test it out yourself is just go to your front door and click over. A lot of that click goes, you know it's gone out as far as it's going to go. You want that deadbolt to extend at least 1 inch into the frame around the door. At least 1 inch is going to give it a little bit better base and a little more protection if someone's trying to kick in, kind of break in that front door with their the strike plate goes along with that is very as well. And so most your lock combo kits you're going to get are going to come with those tiny itty bitty screws that are maybe like a 1/2 inch long that will keep your strike plate up on there. And so don't use those. you're going to want to get much longer screws. And so 2.5 to 3 inches is typically how long you're going to want to get. And so what that's going to do, if you use those hinge on your, that's going to take it from just the frame of the door. The more screws you have on your access points, the harder is it going to be to break into that door. Given someone could realistically eventually get through that, but can buy you is much more time with there. Uh, if you have windows where you're putting in those screws, obviously you're not going to want to put a 3-inch screw in because you're going to go too far and you're probably going to break your windows with that. So that is a consideration to think about when you're installing that. But all the that, like I said, on the hinges that go into the frame of the outside the door, everything like that, you want those long screws through there. Um, in this case, it has an extra screen door on the front door for with that because it allows that extra level of protection on there. That's locked. That's one more barrier a person has to go to get into your front door. Most housing situations are going to have some sort of light, dedicate some sort of light on the doors from there, making sure it's on, making sure it's used, making sure it's where it's to be. It's on when you need it to be. Once you know when it starts getting dark from that. Other things you can do for the front doors and kind of consider that visibility piece like that when we talk about the doorbell cameras. That's where people will have them an extra set of eyes up there. A lot of people put in that kind of keyhole, that kind of viewer through the door of the people from there to see out from there. Those are a few things you can do to those doors. And truthfully, how you protect your front door is the exact same way I want you to protect that door at the rear of your house, that door that comes in from your garage into your house. And still want deadbolts on there. I still want solid core doors. I still want all the protection pieces on those entry doors because they come into your house as well. And so I want to protect them the exact same way as the others from there. I want the lighting, I want everything else in place. If you want to put a camera in those, great. That's an extra bonus from that as well. Um, other doors we get to talk about sliding glass doors. We get to talk about French doors. They're a little bit harder to protect. Um, First and foremost, when I talk about sliding doors, most people protect, and I'm for this, is with that simple dowel, that simple stick. They'll put in the track, and so you can't open it up, you can't access it that way, which is great. The piece I talked about, remind people of, if you have to get out in emergency, making sure you can get that out quickly, and so have an easy handle on there, have something where it's easy to grasp and get out of of that track, and so you can actually open the door. Most new doors you're going to see, they're kind of built where it's closed. You can't push the glass door up and take it out of its track. And so just take a look at your sliding glass door and see when you can actually push it out. If you can push it out in the closed position, then we got some issues from there. And the things we would recommend you doing is opening the door a little bit and putting a screw in the track and closing the door again. So if that screw is down just a little bit in that track, it allows me not to be able to push it up in the closed position that you're going to actually have to have the door physically open if you're going to take it out of its track. Always read about breakage on those, given breaking a window, breaking a glass door like that is going to make noise. It's going to alert you if you're inside the house. Hopefully it's going to alert your neighbors. And so you won't see a lot of people want to do that. But there are films and things like that you can buy at your hardware store, have your glass company install on those big glass windows, big glass doors to prevent breakage. At least they won't prevent breakage, but they will prevent the glass from falling everywhere when they are broken. They kind of keep that barrier up. And what they do is buy more time for the homeowner. French doors, we may have locks on them, the exact same thing as everything else. But the bigger the gap between the doors, the bigger concern I have. So making sure they're installed right. All the doors should have no more than about an eighth of an inch around them to have them fitted properly into that spot. Um, the French doors, we like to see those kind of locks you have additionally that when they go up into the frame to keep that piece in place if they ever are attempted to be breached. The windows, most ones, last thing I can emphasize is making sure you use the locks when it comes down to it in the end with it. And so you're not going to be at home, close the window, lock the window, and so no one's going to get in with that. We see people do the exact same things with dowels. They put them in the track, and so they can't open from there unless they open that big and they have that little bit of air that can come through from there. I say a screen is a good for that you have because it's a pain in the butt to take a screen off from the outside if it's installed properly. And so that's going to buy you time. Given it could be cut, but hopefully people are going to be aware to that. And there's additional security screens you can buy where that material is not able to be cut with just your average box knife, whichever else from there. Um, we talk about landscaping around windows, which I'll get to in 1 second, but even having that nice thorny bush in front of that window that is a little more hidden on your property can prevent access from there. You go down to the Home Depot, you go down to your hardware store, or you can buy additional window locks. That is something that could be as simple as a clip on the track to keep it there that you can take off if you want to open your window itself. Or they have additional key locks you can put on the place where it's simple, like keeps the window shut while you want it to be. You take your key, you hit your button, it opens it up, and you can open and close your window back and forth with that. If you want to close your garage door, that's a great start with as well. We get so many garage break-ins we have here. Actually, it's a break-in, it's an open garage where people go in and access whatever is in there, and you'll see our tools in there, all our sporting goods in there, our vehicle in there. We've seen cars get stored with wallets in there and keys inside with them. And so closing your garage door, car back and forth, unless you're physically taking the lawnmower back and forth, is a great start from with that. Your gate, people have gates on the side of the house like that. I think you can kind of see the one over here, but adding then just that little extra protection from there is I've seen people put, like a typical carabiner inside the gate mechanism, and so you have to be in the backyard to take that off to get it in. Given, is there a way to go through it? Yeah, but it's going to buy you a little extra time. It's going to be a little extra pain for that person to do, and you want to make it as difficult as possible for them. And that kind of extends to sheds you have in the back of your house, stuff like that, maybe locked and protected, kind of adding those different barriers of security through there. I need to update all my numbers for lighting, but truthfully, this is the cheapest thing for around having your lights on when you need them to be. And that could be from being home to turn the switch on and on, but we forget from time to time. So I encourage timers, I encourage sensors, things of that nature that will turn your lights on for you. You can buy a switch sensor for about probably $15 to $20, install it on your front switch, and now you set the security, whichever else from there. Given you're gonna have to update it depending on when you guys buy to make sure it's gonna be on based off of when it gets dark, when it gets light, but they're going to be on when you need them, and that's going to give that sense of someone's at home, someone's going to be at home. And truthfully, for my calculations here, I should probably do it for an LED bulb now, which is even more efficient. But you can have light on your house for a lot cheaper than it's going to cost a lot of alarm systems to operate for 1 month, 2 months from there, and it's going to be a great benefit for that. And even just thinking that it costs to replace your TV or your computer or whichever else could get just your feeling of safety in your house, it's a very cheap cost. What could all the rest could be from there. The landscaping I'm going to run through fairly quickly from that, but the trees pieces, the things to remember when we're planting trees, when we're maintaining trees around our property, we want them trimmed 6-7 feet off of ground, and so we want a person be able to walk underneath them without hitting their head too much. What that's going to allow is you from inside your house to be able to see out and not have branches, not have that bottom foliage extended down where it's going to block your visibility of your vehicle, of people walking by, whichever else from there. We want them away from the house, and so if there is second story, so there's any access above grade uh, from the near first floor, they can't access it by simply shimmying up the tree and jumping to that balcony, jumping into that rooftop where they're able to go around and access that window that might be a little bit lower on another side of the property. That's a great example of that. Far enough out, they're trimmed up fairly high, at least the bottom foliage is, and so any of those windows can easily see the street outside. Um, this is a bad example up there where the tree there on the left is maybe a couple feet off the ground. Not to mention the rest of the shrubs. I'll get to those later, but that adds just it's more of a block. So if you're looking out your window, you got your front door at that, your vision is so much deterred, and so you can't see what's going on as easily on the street, whether that's someone walking by, driving by, sitting and watching your house, whichever else from there. This is another example of people what I encourage to consider when they're planting trees, when they're planting shrubs. And so the street out here that runs along the sidewalk, there's zero lighting on that from the street lights, anything else from there. And so truthfully, that light is providing 100% light to the property outside. And so when that tree was there, I'm sure it was nice and low, and so it wasn't obstructing the light. But I always have to remind people that light posts, your house, light fixtures aren't going to grow, but your shrubs and trees are going to grow. And if they're they ended up blocking lighting situations such as that. And so now, because that shrub has grown, that tree is grown up very big and very tall, the lighting is greatly reduced on the whole property because of one plant. The shrub piece, we want anything kind of below 3 feet, 2 feet, a minimum below the bottom of windows if you're going to be planning it for security, so you're not allow access from there. But how I tell people to remember, if they can't remember a certain 2 foot, 3 foot, just keep it below your knee. And so that's going to keep it low enough to maintain that visibility. So once again, you're able to see out the window, you see out and about, and it's not creating a block for that window for people to see the window, for you to see out the window from there. We usually like them 6 feet away from doorways and things like that, so we're not creating ambush spots, especially if it is a large shrub that grows out of control. There's not that hiding spot too close to your door. If you like the big shrubs, which there's so many people that like their really big arborvitaes, we try to encourage V-shaped patterns, so at least it's smaller at the bottom. And so if someone tries to use it as a hiding spot, it's not going to be as good of a hiding spot to them. And so this is a great example. Everything's trimmed nice and low so people can see out, see about, given that's going to be huge pretty soon, a big arborvitae, but everything else is nice and low so I can see out of my home and see what's going on my property. This is a case when they first planted it, I'm sure it looked very nice, and now it's growing bigger and bigger. And in this case, from my point of view, it obstructs 100% access to some of the property up here. The front door is going to obstruct some access, also visibility to spots along the street. Same with this property, which in essence they planted just a whole string of shrubs around the side. And so if I'm standing at the front door, no one can truthfully see me for the most part because I'm blocked access from all the shrubs with that. Sure, going nefarious sorts of activities. And so one of the things is some options, you can take the shrubs out, you can trim them where you can see below them, stuff like that. And so they actually went full on Q-tip with not everyone's cup of tea, what the pleasant to view thing is going to be on their property. All activity stopped back there. All the bad activity from all the bad actors they had using that spot, because it's visible now. You can see the activity now, so it wasn't hidden anymore, and so it cut it off altogether. Very expensive house, very small shrub at one point, zero access, zero visibility to the door because of one shrub there, and once again obstructing your vision, obstructing your, causing a detriment to your safety because of it. I talk about barrier plants, and I love barrier plants. These are the ones you want to plant in areas to discourage access. And so if you have a blind spot in your property, that blind window, that place behind the shed we don't want people to go, these are great places to plant things like that to discourage people from going out there. Those are just a few examples of plants that we have that work here locally for the most part. I've seen a lot of hollies used, given most of the leaves in there are pretty sharp. They're going to cut people going through there. The barberries are one I like to use. We see a lot of with, and I people behind one of my blind windows at my residence, and I truthfully hate trimming it because I always get poked and pricked and ripped the heck out of my hands from there, and so if I hate to maintain it, it's going to be good to keep someone out of it. I've seen some plum plants they have where the barbs they have on there are truthfully 1.5 to 3 inches long, and so that is a very hostile plant, and it's going to serve its purpose if anyone wants to get in through there. So this is a great example of the barberries below a window that's going to discourage people from accessing it because they're planted there. This is my neighbor's house, which a very super great guy. I've talked to him a few times a year down the street, and he had the right idea when he planted a lot of this, because the front shrubs go barberry rose all across the way, which is going to be a great barrier from people coming up there onto the lawn and stuff like that. Unfortunately, maintenance might not be the best, and so it's a little more obstructed from there, and that's reminding just the whole maintenance piece of trimming this stuff up, trimming it down, and to maintain that visibility. When it comes to the ground covers, whether like it's bark and stuff like that or rocks, I usually prefer rocks just because they make noise when you walk on them, and so you can put them below a walk, underneath the window or in other, walkways and stuff like that, and people when they walk across them, it goes that crunch noise. If I'm inside the house, I can hear it. my neighbor on the other side of the fence, they can hear it too. And so it's that extra little security tool from there. The piece I remind people of is don't use too big of rocks, and so they're not more a tool for a person to break things with, smash things with, as opposed to just something a small ground cover like this. They used it for that. Anyone walks between through there, someone's going to hear it. Someone's going to easily hear that and be aware of someone to their presence. This is a copy of our home security survey. This is what we go over everyone with at their residence, from the garage doors, the sliding doors, to their front side and their main entrance from there, making sure all those pieces are in place. Other things we look for is your housing numbers, making sure they're visible from the street. So if emergency services is having to respond to your house, it's easily identified from that. And part of that is having them illuminated, having them near those lights, and so people can see them when they're driving by, and having your lights on from there. We go through all the doors, we go through all the windows, other miscellaneous pieces like the lighting, the shrubbery. We talk other security pieces, from things like your escape plan if you have kids and stuff like that, your meeting places with kids, those emergency preparedness things you're going to have, to your alarm system, to if you have security closets, security areas inside your house, everything that's going to keep your house a lot more safe if someone does try to access it, or it's going to prevent that from happening because they see all the security things you have in place. How I explain it to businesses, how I explain it to residents is, you want your security to be more than your neighbors, and so on and so forth down the street. If they're picking between two places like that, you want them to pick house B and not house A, which is yours if you're going to commit their crime. The vacation piece, and needs to go to everyday stuff when it comes down to it too. It's great that you want to talk to your friends, your families about your vacation, but you want to inform people so they know where you're going, but maybe not share it to the entire world, and so the entire neighborhood knows you're gone. And there might be those nefarious people in there that want to take advantage of your property when you're not there. With social media and things like that, it's great to share your pictures, and maybe do it home, and so you're not advertising that you are away from your house for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 days, for people to see that on open sites sources from there. We always encourage people to have those trusted neighbors, those trusted friends, to keep an eye on your place, your property, taking the paper, rake the leaves so it doesn't look unkept, unlived in. You can always report when you're going to be out of town to your local police department. A lot of them will have drive-by programs where the officers will increase their drive-bys in your neighborhood by your property to see if anything looks out of place. We always have you give those emergency phone numbers to people who know where you're going to be, stuff like that. And so you have to check in if they have to get those emergency situations. They can have them pick up the newspaper mail. You can always put the pauses on that, and so it doesn't show as a sign of you're gone by 4 newspapers sitting in your drive, or your mailbox full of their same with the garbage and stuff like that. They're nice enough, have them take your garbage cans in and out. And so once again, it looks like those daily routines of you being there. We even have people park in our driveway to show that someone's there when we're on vacation. To someone think the vehicle's in the driveway, someone must be at home from there. But even if you're going to be gone for extended periods of time, thinking about snow removal, thinking about lawn mows, things of that nature. So once again, that house looks lived in, a house looks kept, and so they think people are going to be there and active at home. The lighting piece, and this is just for the daily stuff, but it's helpful, especially too when you're gone, making sure you have those timers or those sensors on your lights so that the lights at the front of your house go on. I would also include putting those on the inside of your house. And so you have them on a light, you have them on TV, you have radio, stuff like that. That's going to make noise. And so the door, they see the light on, they hear the noise going on, they think someone is at home from there. And truthfully, we encourage these in a lot of situations where people might be living at home at late at night or when it's dark, is to have these different lights and stuff on inside your house. You're coming to a lit house as opposed to a pitch black one. And making sure you're locking stuff up. And so if you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, that might be a great time to unplug your garage door opener and uh, lock it by putting something in the track, and so people can't just easily access that as much, things of that nature. I always give a plug for neighborhood watch programs. We have 200 plus in the city of Boise, and we've got people contacting us weekly about starting new programs and stuff like that. I'm a very big supporter, if nothing for else. These give you just this one extra excuse to neighbors, become closer to your neighbors, because um, truthfully, a neighbor is a huge free security system that you have. already for the we all pay attention to our safety, pay attention to the neighborhood, the better off. He was the one that accidentally woke up 3 o'clock, couldn't fall back asleep, was kind of watching out in front of his house, sitting in his office, and saw the people get dropped off to start burglarizing. Our neighborhood. He made. I think we're at a great point right now, Sandy, to go ahead and take what questions we have.
I haven't seen any questions so far. What if we unmute everybody and let them ask their own questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. As long as Sandy clicked it right, you should be able to click on your unmute button if you have a question, you had a comment, you had anything else you wanted to discuss.
Well, it doesn't seem to want to work, Steve.
What?
The unmute for me.
I looked at it. Let's see if I can get under participants. I can't. Under security, you can allow them to unmute,
Okay.
but it doesn't have an unmute.
Okay.
You have to ask everybody to unmute themselves. I can ask them. I can click that.
Okay. That's what I've been trying to do, and it hasn't worked for me. So I'm not the
No,
co-host I thought it was.
Yeah, you are, but you can't force unmute people.
Well,
You can mute them all. Ask all to unmute works, but
well, it isn't working for me. It just stays there when I ask for them to unmute.
well, yeah, they have to do it.
Well, if people do have
I realize
questions
that,
for me outside this format,
What I did was release the.
if anyone has any questions for me outside this format, if you have things come up from there, here's all my contact information on the screen. Now you can shoot me an email, you can give me a phone call. I'm always glad to share, to answer questions and stuff like that. If you're inside of Boise, we always go out to a number of residents throughout the year for people who were victimized, want to learn more about security at their house, and we simply talk over the phone and through different things like that, whether they're going on vacation, they're doing whichever else from there, to kind of go over those pieces with that. We're always happy to help, so feel free to shoot me an email, give me a call. Live outside the Boise area, consider your department as for that exact same thing. If you're going to be on vacation, if you have questions about your home security, have questions about anything like that, call your local police departments, use hopefully a wealth of information for your particular area, and help you in that same situation.
okay, if everybody would at least look at the chat screen. Can you click on chat down at the bottom of your screen? We have a link to the survey regarding the what you thought of the class. Got a note from Sharon, says that the information has been great and thorough. Thank you. It gives us the option. So it is working. So it's working. I don't know. Anyway, I guess that's it, since I can't seem to get that to work. And so the link is on the screen. If you want to copy that and paste it in your browser, it would be great. Thank you so much, Ed. You always do a great job on this. I really appreciate your work. And I'm looking forward to working with you in the future again.
All right. Thank
If
you guys.
there are
Like
no
I said,
other
Anthony ever needs
comments,
input
I